I saw my fiancé's dying father playing basketball 3 weeks before our wedding. Not sitting on a bench. Not watching from the side. Playing. He caught the ball, laughed and shouted, "I'm still the man out here." And I sat in my truck across the street, holding the gift I bought for him, wondering why the woman I loved had been crying for 2 months over a man who looked healthier than me. My name is Caleb Turner. And that basketball shot was the first crack in a lie big enough to destroy my wedding. I was 34 years old when all of this happened. I worked as a paramedic in Columbus, Ohio, and I had built my whole life around staying calm when everybody else was falling apart. That's what the job teaches you. You don't panic when a mother is screaming. You don't freeze when there's blood on the floor. You don't make promises you can't keep. You breathe, you look at what's real, and you do the next right thing. That's why what Natalie did messed me up so badly. Because she knew me. She knew that if she had told me the truth, even if it was ugly, even if it was embarrassing, I would have stood there with her and faced it. But she didn't give me the truth. She gave me a dying father. A fake illness. A fake family tragedy. And almost a fake marriage. Natalie Reed was the kind of woman people trusted without trying. She was 32, a school counselor, soft-spoken but not weak, the kind of person who remembered a kid's favorite snack and a janitor's birthday in the same week. When I met her, I was working in emergency standby at a high school basketball tournament. One of the players had twisted his ankle, and Natalie was there calming down his little brother, who thought his brother was dying because kids are dramatic like that. She looked at me and said, "Please tell him ankles don't explode." I said, "Not usually." She laughed. That was it. That tiny laugh somehow became coffee, then dinner, then weekends together, then her dog sleeping on my couch like he paid rent. 2 years later, I proposed to her outside a little diner where we used to go after my night shifts. She cried. I cried too, but I blamed the cold wind because I'm a man with pride and bad excuses. Just for a while, everything felt clean. Simple. Then we started planning the wedding. That's when her father became a shadow. His name was Martin Reed. I had never met him. Natalie always said he was complicated. Not cruel, not abusive, just complicated. He used to coach basketball, she told me once. Used to? Before he got sick. What kind of sick? She looked down at her plate. Heart stuff. It's hard to talk about. I didn't push. That was my first mistake. Not because people owe you every painful detail on command. They don't. But when you're about to marry someone, locked doors matter. You don't have to kick them open, but you do need to know why they're locked. 2 months before the wedding, Natalie told me her father couldn't come. We were sitting at our kitchen table with invitation samples spread between us. She had been quiet all night. Then she said, "Caleb, I need to tell you something." I looked up. My dad probably won't make it to the wedding. I thought she meant traffic or family drama. Then her eyes filled with tears. He's dying. The word hit me hard. Dying. I have heard that word in hospital rooms, driveways, bedrooms, and back seats of cars. People use it carefully when they mean it. At least I thought they did. Natalie told me he was weak. She said his heart was failing. She said he couldn't handle stress, crowds, or long drives. He lives 40 minutes away, I said gently. I know. Can I go see him? Her answer came too fast. No. I waited. She wiped her face. He doesn't want you to see him like that. I wanted to respect that. I really did. I told myself grief makes people protective. I told myself maybe Martin was proud. Maybe he didn't want his daughter's future husband seeing him sick, thin, and helpless. So I backed off. For about 3 weeks, I became the supportive fiancé. I held Natalie when she cried. I told my mother the father-daughter dance might not happen. I told the wedding coordinator to keep the program flexible. I even ordered Martin a small gift. A black box with silver cufflinks inside. On each cufflink, I had 5 words engraved. Thank you for raising her. I thought maybe if he couldn't come, I could at least send him something that said, I see you. I respect you. I'm going to take care of your daughter. Now I wish I could go back and tell myself to save the money. The day I saw him was a Saturday. I had just finished a CPR demonstration at a community center on the north side. Kids were running everywhere. Parents were pretending not to be tired. Somebody was grilling hot dogs outside, and the whole place smelled like smoke and sunscreen. When I left, I realized Natalie's father's house was only a few minutes away. The cufflinks were in my glove box. I thought just dropped them off. No pressure. No argument. No big scene. Just leave the gift with a note. So I drove toward his neighborhood. That's when I passed the outdoor basketball courts. And there he was. Martin Reed. I knew him from the one framed photo Natalie kept in her hallway. Same broad shoulders. Same gray hair. Same crooked smile. Only in the photo, he was holding a teenage Natalie after a championship game. On the court, he was moving like a man who had no business being described as too weak to walk to the kitchen. He caught pass. Dribbled. Turned. Shot. The ball hit the rim, bounced once, and dropped through. A young guy yelled, "Coach Reed still got it." Coach Reed. I parked across the street and watched him play for almost 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a long time when your future is quietly breaking apart. He ran. He laughed. He argued over a foul. He bent down to tie his shoe. He slapped a teenager on the back and jogged to the other end of the court. No oxygen tank. No shaking hands. No dying man. Just a retired coach playing Saturday basketball. I wanted to call Natalie right then. I wanted to say, "What the hell is going on?" But something stopped me. Maybe it was my job. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe some part of me already knew this wasn't one lie. It was a door. And behind it, there would be more. So instead of calling her, I drove to Martin Reed's house. He lived in a quiet suburb, the kind with trimmed lawns, flags on porches, and neighbors who notice everything but pretend they don't. When I knocked, I heard footsteps. Strong footsteps. The door opened. Martin Reed stood there with a towel around his neck and sweat on his hoodie. The dying man had just come home from pickup basketball. "Can I help you?" he asked. My mouth went dry. "Mr. Reed?" "Yeah. My name is Caleb Turner." He stared at me. Nothing. No recognition. That scared me more than the basketball. "I'm Natalie's fiancé." The towel slipped from his hand. For a few seconds, he just looked at me like I had spoken another language. Then he said, "Natalie is engaged?" That was the moment I knew my wedding wasn't just in trouble. It might not have been real in the way I thought it was. A woman came from the kitchen. Elaine Reed. Natalie's mother. Small, neat, silver hair, eyes sharp enough to cut through drywall. "Martin," she said. "Who is this?" He didn't look away from me. "This is Natalie's fiancé." Elaine's hand went to her chest. Oh my God. They invited me inside. The house was warm and normal, which somehow made it worse. Family photos lined the hallway. Natalie as a little girl holding a basketball. Natalie at prom. Natalie at graduation. Martin in a coach's polo. Elaine with flower on her cheek in some Christmas photo. This was not a house that looked cut off from its daughter. This was a house waiting for her to come back. We sat in the living room. Martin didn't waste time. "How long have you been engaged?" 2 months. Elaine whispered. "She didn't tell us." I looked between them. "She told me you were dying." Martin's face went hard. Elaine closed her eyes. "I had a heart scare 3 years ago," Martin said slowly. "1 stent. Blood pressure meds. Doctor told me to stop eating like a raccoon near a dumpster." Under any other circumstance, I might have laughed. I didn't. "You're not dying?" He shook his head. "Not faster than anybody else." Elaine sat down beside him. "She told you that?" I nodded. "She said you were too weak to come to the wedding. Too weak for visitors. Too sick for stress." Martin looked at the floor. His jaw tightened. Elaine wiped her eyes. And then she said something I didn't understand at the time. "She's doing it again." That one word changed the air in the room. "What does that mean?" I asked. Elaine looked at Martin. Martin leaned back and rubbed both hands over his face. "Our daughter lies when she's scared," he said. Elaine whispered, "Martin?" "No," he said. "He deserves to know." Then he told me about Aaron, Natalie's first fiancé. I didn't know there had been a first fiancé. She had told me there was one serious boyfriend in her 20s and that it ended badly. That was it. Martin told me Natalie had been engaged at 27. The wedding was planned. Venue booked. Dress bought. 2 weeks before the ceremony, Erin found out she had lied about debt. Credit cards. Personal loans. A car payment she said was handled. Money borrowed from friends. Nothing illegal, Martin said, but enough to destroy trust. Erin left. Natalie fell apart. Her parents helped her clean it up. They paid some bills. Got her into counseling. Helped her rebuild. Martin looked me dead in the eye. We thought she had changed. I wanted to defend her. That was the sick part. Even sitting there, hearing that she had hidden a whole previous engagement from me, some piece of my heart still stood up for her like a fool. She has been under stress, I said. Martin nodded. That may explain fear. It doesn't excuse fraud. The word hit different coming from a father talking about his own daughter. That was when I remembered the money. The wedding account. Natalie had been handling most of it because she said she was better with vendors. Venue deposits. Flowers. Catering. Photographer. I had transferred money into that account every month. Then, 3 weeks earlier, she had asked me for $5,000. For Dad, she said. She said if he had one good day near the wedding, maybe they could arrange medical transport. Maybe a private nurse. Maybe he could sit in the back for 10 minutes and see her in the dress. I sent the money that same night. I took out my phone. My hands were steady, but my stomach wasn't. I opened the transfer. $5,000 to Natalie Reed. Memo, for Martin's care. Martin looked at it. Elaine made a sound like she had been punched. I never saw that money, Martin said. Of course he hadn't. I stood up. Elaine reached toward me. Caleb, please. I need to talk to Natalie. Martin walked me to the door. Before I left, he said, Son, listen to me. I turned. I love my daughter. I would die for her. But do not marry her until you know what she's hiding. That is a hard thing for a father to say, which meant I had to believe him. Natalie was at our apartment when I got back. She was sitting on the couch with wedding ribbons around her, tying tiny bows for the favors like our life was still normal. She smiled when I walked in. Then she saw my face. The smile disappeared. Where were you? She asked. I put the cufflink box on the coffee table. Her eyes dropped to it. Then she started shaking. Not crying. Shaking. That told me everything. I met your father, I said. She whispered, No. One stent, Natalie? Her face collapsed. I laughed once. I hated the sound. You said he was dying. She stood up. Caleb, I can explain. Where is the money? She stopped moving. There was not confusion, not surprise. Fear. Where is the $5,000? I asked. Her lips trembled. I was going to fix it. I closed my eyes. That sentence. I was going to fix it. Nobody says that unless something is already broken. What did you do? She sat down like her bones had given up. I gave it to Jordan. I stared at her. Who the hell is Jordan? That was the first time I really felt anger. Not hurt. Anger. Cold and clean. How many people are in your family that I don't know about? She started crying. Jordan has problems. I waited. He's addicted to gambling. Pills too, sometimes. My parents cut him off years ago. I didn't. She told me Jordan had called her in January, saying he owed dangerous people money. He was scared. He was crying. He said they would hurt him. So she helped him. Then he needed more. And more. And more. At first, she used her savings. Then credit cards. Then money from the wedding account. Then the $5,000 I sent for her dying father who wasn't dying. How much? I asked. She didn't answer. How much of our wedding money is gone? She covered her face. Natalie. Her voice broke. Almost all of it. I sat down slowly. We had $24,000 in that account. Venue. Catering. Photographer. Honeymoon. Everything. How much is left? She whispered, 900. For a few seconds, I couldn't hear anything. Not the traffic outside. Not her crying. Not even my own breathing. $900. $900 and a mountain of lies. You were going to marry me, I said. She looked up. I love you. Don't say that right now. She flinched. Some words should hurt when the truth is standing between them. You were going to let me stand in front of my family, my friends, and marry you while I believed your father was dying and our wedding was paid for. I thought I could replace it. With what? She didn't answer fast enough. And in that silence, I saw the rest. My income. My savings. My credit. A marriage. I wasn't just her fiancé. I was the next solution. I stood up. She grabbed my hand. Please don't leave. I looked at her fingers around my wrist. Those same fingers had put a ring on. Those same fingers had signed vendor forms. Those same fingers had sent my money somewhere else and called it care. I gently pulled away. I can't stay here tonight. She followed me to the door, crying harder. Caleb, I was scared. I turned around. So was your brother. You gave him money. So was your father when I showed up. He told me the truth anyway. Then I left. I drove to my mother's house because when your life burns down, you go to the person who taught you how to survive smoke. My mother, Denise Turner, is 61 and has no patience for pretty lies. She opened the door in slippers, took one look at me and said, "Who died?" I said, "Nobody. That's the problem." She made coffee. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which is how I knew she was really worried. When I finished, she said, "Baby, that girl loves you." I looked at her like she had lost her mind. She stole from me. She lied to you, Mom said. Don't soften it. But I'm telling you, love and damage can live in the same person. That doesn't mean you marry the damage. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called the venue. I asked about canceling. The woman on the phone went quiet after I explained half the situation. Then she said, "Honey, I'm going to mark this as postponed for now. Gives you a little breathing room." I thanked her. Then I called the caterer. Then the photographer. Then my best man. By noon, the wedding was officially on hold. By 2, Martin Reed called me. His voice was tense. "Jordan showed up here." My stomach dropped. "What?" "He came looking for Natalie. He's angry." "Where is she?" "She came home this morning." I grabbed my keys. Martin said, "Caleb, don't come here if you're coming to fight." "I'm not." That was only half true. When I reached the Reed house, a police car was already outside. Natalie was on the porch wrapped in Elaine's arms. Jordan was near the driveway, handcuffed, yelling at Martin. He was thin, restless, with eyes that moved too fast. He looked like a man who had spent years turning sympathy into cash. When he saw me, he laughed. "You the groom?" I didn't answer. He grinned. "She didn't tell you about me?" Damn. Nat really was starting fresh. Natalie sobbed. Jordan looked at me and said, "Relax, man. She always pays eventually." Martin lunged forward, but an officer stopped him. And that was when I saw the truth from a different angle. Natalie had lied to me. But Jordan had been using her like an ATM with a heartbeat for years. Still, that didn't erase what she did. Pain can explain a lie. It cannot turn it into honesty. After the police took Jordan away for violating a restraining order I didn't even know existed, Martin told me the rest. Years earlier, Jordan had stolen from Elaine. Jewelry. Cash. Even checks. Natalie covered for him. When Martin cut him off, Natalie became his secret lifeline. Every time Jordan fell, Natalie paid. Every time he cried, she answered. Every time she tried to stop, he threatened to disappear, relapse, or get hurt. And she believed it would be her fault, Elaine said, crying. Every time. Natalie stood there on the porch like a person made of glass. I asked her, "Why didn't you tell me?" She wiped her face. "Because I thought you'd leave." I nodded. "And now?" She looked at me. "Now I know I gave you a reason to." That was the first honest thing she had said all day. But honesty after betrayal doesn't magically fix the damage. It just gives you a clean wound instead of an infected one. A week passed. Then 2. Natalie moved back in with her parents. I stayed in the apartment alone. Everywhere I looked, the wedding was still there. Ribbon on the counter. Invitation samples in a drawer. Her coffee mug by the sink. The ring box on my dresser. And the cufflinks. Those stupid cufflinks. One night, I took them out and looked at the engraving. "Thank you for raising her." I almost threw them away. Then I realized Martin had raised her. He just hadn't been able to save her from the one person she kept trying to save. 3 weeks after the truth came out, Natalie asked to meet. I almost said no. Then I remembered something my mom said. You don't owe her a future, but you might owe yourself an ending. So I met Natalie at a diner halfway between my apartment and her parents' house. She looked different. No makeup. Hair tied back. Eyes tired. Hands empty. No ring. That hit me harder than I expected. She slid a folder across the table. I almost laughed. "What is this?" "Proof," she said. Inside was a repayment plan. A signed agreement from a financial counselor. Bank statements. A list of every dollar she had taken from the wedding account. A cashier's check for $3,700. "It's not enough," she said. "But it's the first payment." I stared at the check. Where did this come from? "I sold my car." I looked up. She didn't smile. "I'm not asking you to forgive me today," she said. "And I'm not asking for the wedding back." "What are you asking for?" She swallowed. "For you to know I'm done hiding." I wanted that to make me feel better. It did. And it didn't. Both can be true. She took a breath. "I told myself I was protecting you. From my family. From Jordan. From the stress. From the ugliness. But I wasn't protecting you, Caleb. I was protecting the version of myself I wanted you to marry." That sentence sat between us for a long time. Finally I said, "That version wasn't real." She nodded. "I know. And I loved her." Her eyes filled. "I know. That was the hardest part. I didn't just lose a wedding. I lost the woman I thought she was. And I had to sit across from the woman she actually was and decide if the truth arrived too late. We didn't get back together that day. This isn't one of those stories where love fixes everything by the last scene. Life is not that cute. Natalie went to therapy. Real therapy. Not, I downloaded a meditation app, therapy. She cut off Jordan except through his treatment counselor. She paid me back every month. Sometimes $200. Sometimes $500. Once $87 with an apology written in the memo line. I kept every payment record, not because I wanted to punish her, but because trust without records had already cost me too much. Martin texted me sometimes. Simple things. "Jordan's still in rehab." Natalie had a hard week but stayed honest. "Played ball today. Only made 3 shots. Getting old is garbage." The first time he wrote, "Still not dying," I laughed for the first time in weeks. For months later, I saw Natalie again. Not planned. I was picking up takeout after a long shift. She was leaving the same restaurant with Elaine. We stopped in front of the door. Elaine touched my arm. "Good to see you, Caleb." "You too." Natalie looked at me with that careful sadness people have when they know they broke something they can't demand back. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Elaine gave us space. For a moment, we just stood there while people walked around us carrying food and living normal lives like the world had not once ended in our kitchen. Natalie said, "I paid another $1,000 yesterday." I saw. "I'm not saying that for credit." "I know." She nodded. Then she said, "Do you think there's any version of us that still happens?" I looked at her. The honest answer was yes. Somewhere inside me I could see it. A smaller wedding. More therapy. Hard conversations. Maybe trust rebuilt brick by brick. But I could also see myself waking up at 2 in the morning years from now wondering what else I didn't know. And that wasn't a marriage. That was a life sentence with nice photos. So I said, "Not right now." She closed her eyes. Not right now is not no. But it is not yes either. And sometimes that's the only honest place you have. 6 months after the canceled wedding, I drove past that community center again. I didn't mean to. A call ended nearby, and on my way back to the station, there it was. The basketball court. Martin was there. Of course he was. Gray hoodie. Knee brace. Same crooked smile. He saw my ambulance, recognized me through the windshield, and lifted a hand. I pulled over. He walked to the fence. "You working?" he asked. "Always." He nodded toward the court. "You want to shoot one?" I almost said no. Then I got out. I took the ball from him, stepped behind the line, and shot. It missed so badly it almost hit a parked bike. Martin laughed. Not cruelly. Just like a coach who had seen worse. "Good thing you save lives," he said. I laughed too. Then he got quiet. "I'm sorry," he said. I looked at him. For what? For not seeing how bad it had gotten with her. With Jordan. With all of it. I leaned against the fence. "You didn't lie to me." "No," he said. "But sometimes parents miss the fire until the smoke is already in someone else's house." That was a heavy sentence for a basketball court. I nodded. Then I reached into my jacket pocket. I don't know why I had them with me that day. Maybe some part of me knew. I handed him the black cufflink box. He opened it. "Read the words. Thank you for raising her." His eyes got wet. "I don't deserve these." "Maybe not for the lie," I said. "But for telling me the truth when it would have been easier not to." He closed the box slowly. "Thank you." We stood there for a minute. Then he said, "She loves you." "I know. But you don't know if that's enough." I looked at the court. At the kids running. At the ball bouncing. At the place where one ordinary Saturday had saved me from a lifetime of questions. "No," I said. "I don't." And that was the truth. Here's what I learned. A lie doesn't have to come from hatred to destroy you. Sometimes it comes from fear. Sometimes from shame. Sometimes from someone trying to keep all the broken pieces together with both hands while telling everyone, "I'm fine." But a lie is still a lie. And love cannot grow in a room where the truth keeps getting locked outside. Natalie and I are not married. Not now. Maybe not ever. She is still paying me back. Still in therapy. Still rebuilding her life without using love as an emergency fund. And me? I'm healing. Slowly. Some days I miss her so much I almost call. Some days I remember the empty wedding account and feel nothing but cold. Both are real. That's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't move in a straight line. It circles back. It gets quiet. It jumps out at you in grocery stores when you see the cereal she liked. But I'm okay. The wedding didn't happen. The future changed. The woman I loved turned out to be both better and worse than I knew. And the man she said was dying is still alive, still playing basketball, still missing corner shots, still texting me sometimes like a strange almost father-in-law from a life I almost had. Last week, he sent me a photo from the court. The message said, "Made 5 today. Don't tell Caleb." I smiled. Then I put the phone down. Because sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes it humiliates you. Sometimes it cancels the wedding, empties the account, and sends your whole life sideways. But sometimes the truth also saves you. For me, it showed up wearing a knee brace, laughing on a basketball court, shooting like his heart was just fine. And thank God I saw it before I said, "I do."